Hi, thank you for joining us. Just a quick word from me before I go behind the camera. My name is Eyal Yaski, and I'm joined here by my friend Tal Shmueli, and together we co-founded Startup Nightmares. Startup Nightmares is a consultancy for early stage startups and also a podcast. And what you're going to hear today, presented to you by Tal, is based on our first-hand experiences. Tal, do you care to present yourself?
Folks, my name is Tal. I'm a startup executive and an entrepreneur. My career took me through some really exciting companies such as LinkedIn, but you're going to see a lot of me, so I'm going to keep this part really brief. Hello and welcome to a special edition of Startup Nightmares, Stories from the Dark Side. My name is Tal Shmueli and I will be your host.
Let's just be a bit more human here.
All of these people started needing stuff from me.
Don't feel like you're on your own, because you're never on your own.
Cambridge Analytica got the Trump contract.
We can do it. We can definitely do it. It's achievable.
Look all this money.
Either pay me or I will sue you.
But I'm paying this person a good wage. Why isn't that enough?
And that doesn't make me special. What makes me special is my deeper story.
So I just feel like, whatever I did in my life, I wanted to be the best.
Wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym for an hour. What the fuck is that?
You're sitting at your desk crying, and you're like, what happened?
I was like, everybody gets a title. You get a title. You get a title.
You can use this. This is how you get there. It is not a secret anymore.
Allow me to start with the bottom line. Startups are the world's most effective value creation units, and yet they come with their own sets of rules, behaviors, and expectations. The startup model is how WhatsApp got acquired by Facebook for $19 billion while employing only 55 employees. The startup way is also how Airbnb became the world's largest hospitality company without owning a single property. The startup way is how Lemonade, an insurance technology startup, disrupted a huge industry. They broke the world record for the fastest claim to be paid while earning millions of dollars for its shareholders. Startups embody the dream of a democratized economy. An economy where anyone with an idea can change the world for the better and become wealthy doing so. We've all heard the stories. We've all seen the magazine covers. And yet, misguided entrepreneurial spirit can sometimes backfire. And when it does, the stories are rarely told. And the hidden costs, they pile up. And the people who are forced to pay those bills are the folks that have worked in these companies, that have seen those stories unfold firsthand. We believe no one launches a company with the intention to burn out before the finish line. We believe that no one builds a startup only so that they can abuse their employees. We believe that no one spreads false promises to trusting investors only to separate them away from their money with unfeasible plans. And yet, these are all scenarios that repeat themselves on a daily basis, and the numbers are staggering. Globally, startups raise over $150 billion a year. 75% of them fail, meaning that more than $110 billion of investor capital is lost. And with such odds, it's no wonder that the employee churn rate in startups is almost double than the industry average. For long now, the collateral damage of the innovation ecosystem had gone ignored. And even with these daunting numbers, startups aren't going anywhere. As long as they are as profitable, as lucrative, and as promising as they are, they're here to stay. So that leaves us asking a few questions. Why is it so hard for even the most talented and well-intentioned entrepreneurs to find success? What can we do to help investors deploy their resources in a more responsible and constructive way? How can we help startup employees better adapt and cope with the unique challenges of working in a startup? Our passion for entrepreneurship and our belief of the founder spirit is what keeps us going. This is why we record Startup Nightmares, and we travel the world looking for these stories, looking for these hard-earned life lessons so we can share them with you. We don't have much time today, and we'd like to use the time we do have to cover 3 topics. We're going to discuss the startup founder, this weird, strange entity, in quite detail. We're going to discuss the startup employee, the other strange creature that finds himself drawn into the fire. And lastly, we're going to talk about what happens when these two entities meet, the company, the team, the business. You won't hear us mention any of the tech megastars, not a word about Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Sheryl Sandberg, not because there's nothing to learn from them, just because we prefer real companies with real life scenarios from real people. It might cost us a few big logos that we won't get to slap on our decks, but we believe this is the right way to learn. And with that in mind, I'd like you to meet Albert. Albert founded Underpinned, a project management software for freelancers, back in the summer of 2018. Albert had no idea what he's getting himself into. He didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, management, or fundraising. He was in for quite a bumpy beginning.
Yeah, I mean the famous work-life balance question, which again, for my business is incredibly relevant because that's a big problem for freelancers. It's how do you negotiate the terms of your life and work balance when you're the person that's doing the negotiation, and it's always tempting to push yourself more into work. And like one of the rules that I've set for myself is I don't really like working in the evening, so I try my very best not to. So I try not to work. I mean, I'll answer the odd email, I'll take a couple of phone calls after 6, but I won't kind of do any heavy lifting work after 6 p.m. And the kind of idea of a startup CEO should be in the office till 11 p.m. every night. But actually, if you're waking up miserable and you're not enjoying doing the startup side of things because you've lost all of your friends and your girlfriend hates you and you're financially stressed and you're all these things, then you're not going to be operating in a positive way. And I think it's easy to want to rush things and put everything into it. There's this idea that if you're doing backbreaking labor all day every day that you're going to be successful, and there's a certain level of truth. You should be working hard, but it's been so important to look after your mental well-being.
Startup founders are the fuel that keeps the ecosystem going. It's their ideas, motivations, and aspiration that keeps us all in business. Regardless of their background and motivations, startup founders share some of these challenges. We mapped a few of them. It's by no means a comprehensive list, but here are some of the common ones that we've seen. Number 1 is the motivational tyranny. Number 2 is the managerial overhead. And then we have the infamous burn rate to burnout ratio. So what is the motivational tyranny? The problem there is expecting everyone in the company to behave like the founder does. The problem is, it doesn't really happen. People join the startups with very different motivations, very different goals, and very different levels of commitment. The expectations founders have of their teams to behave exactly like them, to spend as much time as they do in the office, it's unrealistic and it's damaging. What happens when these expectations are not met? Tensions arise and micromanagement starts. And once you've turned the micromanagement corner, there's no going back. So what is the solution? The number one thing founders need to understand is that no one cares about their company as much as they do. I know it sounds straightforward, and it really is. But your responsibility is not only having that penny drop, it's also realizing why they are joining. What is in it for them? What is the deeper motivation that keeps them connected? What story do they tell themselves that you can help them tell? If you have that figured out, everything else will be a little easier. The second challenge founders face is the managerial overhead. By this I mean the fundamental changes that your business goes through once it becomes a business, once it's no longer just a project. Overnight, founders find themselves having to tackle legal issues, to spend time speaking with accountants and auditors, spending more and more time hiring, managing, solving disputes among their employees, keeping their investors happy. None of that directly contributes to the project's bottom line, and yet it has to be done. The solution? Reset expectations. Don't try to maintain the same output. Understand that your time will be divided differently and make sure that your goals match your time allowance. Second point, understand that your team is not only those who are on the payroll. Your team is also your IT person, your lawyer, and any other vendor who contributes to your day-to-day work. Treat them as if they were your employees, subject them to the same standard, filter them in the same diligent manner, and treat them with the same respect. These folks will do a lot of thinking for you, a lot of heavy lifting for you. You want to know that you trust them, that you can come to them with questions, and that they will come to you with things that don't sit right. And the hardest part? The hardest part is understanding that some fires will keep burning. You need to get comfortable with the sensation that not everything will be perfect all of the time. If anything, it's the other way around. Only one or two things will be perfect while the rest are so-so. So remember that done is better than perfect, and get used to the uncomfortable feeling as it's going to be here for a while. The third element is the burnout to burn rate ratio. Burn rate is the easy part. Call your accountant, check your balance, speak to your finance people, and you'll know where you stand. The burn rate will determine how long your startup can go for. Burnout is where it gets tricky. Burnout is what you should be afraid of. It is a dreaded, elusive, and unfortunately, an inevitable part of the startup game. Burnout is a phenomenon that no amount of money can erase. If you've been burnt out before, you might think that you know how to behave next time around, that maybe it works like a vaccine. Maybe getting it once will protect you from ever being burnt out again. But the fact is that it doesn't work like that. And you're in the same risk group as you were before. If you've never been burnt out before, you might be wondering, what does it feel like? So let me describe roughly what you should be expecting. A constant feeling of irritation, being angry all of the time, not enjoying doing the things that were once very joyful. Creativity, gone, out the window. Sleep, not so much. Maybe you fall asleep easily and wake up very early. Maybe you sleep a very shallow sleep. Maybe it takes you hours to fall asleep. And when you wake up, you can't climb out of bed. You are irritated by everyone and everything, and it feels like the world had conspired against you. It's not a pleasant feeling, and by the time all of these variables add up, it's usually a little too late to do something about it. The solution? First of all, as a founder, understand what your non-negotiables are. What won't you sacrifice for the success of the startup? And once you have those written down, communicate them. Communicate them to your co-founders, to your team, to your stakeholders, and to your partner. Ask for their help in committing to those non-negotiables. These non-negotiables can be anything from the time you spend with your family, to your fitness routine, to your diet, to your annual retreat with your BFF. Find those things that give your life their meaning and hang on to them, regardless of your workload. Plan ahead and make sure you take them into account. Second thing you need to be doing is to check your baseline matrix. If you've had more than 2 nights of shallow, anxious-ridden sleep, it might be a marker. If you're eating less than what you're used to, it might be a marker. If your digestion is changing, it might be a marker. If you're showing up late or unprepared to meetings, this could be a sign. Any week-long deviation from your standard can signal that a burnout is lurking. If you're watching us now and you've realized that you've been burnt out, here's what you should be doing. Number one thing is to reestablish a healthy baseline. Go back to basics and tap into your healthy habits. Make sure you have enough time to heal from the day. Go back to a simple, healthy, constructive diet. Prioritize self-care. Seek feedback from those around you and those who can spot any deviations from your patterns. Ask them, did you notice anything strange about me? Am I my usual self? And also explain why you're asking, because it's critical. They should know to look for those signals. And if they can't find them, at least now they're on alert and they can flag when they do. So you've given them permission to let you know if something feels a little bit off. And lastly, urgently Set some time aside to reassess your situation. Write down a list of all the stressors in your life, regardless if they're external or internal, if they're work or personal life. A huge mega list of everything in your life that causes you stress. It could be that demanding boss. It could be that thing in the apartment that you haven't gotten around to fix. It could be a burdening relationship or a task that's been dragging on and on. It could be your lack of financial options, and it could be the health situation with someone in your family. Make those lists, categorize them, and once it's there, see if you have any idea how to address the stressors that you've surfaced. The ones that you can't really figure out, you don't know what to do, the ones that feel like a dead end, leave them to the end of the list. Make sure you attach an action item to each one of the other stressors, and then those annoying how to get rid of stressors, either address them with one of your friends, colleagues, or mentors, or professionals. Remember, you're not alone. And as a founder, if you're at the top of the pyramid, your responsibility is even greater, because if you burn out, what will the people working for you do? I'm not doing a very good job of selling you on the founder dream, I know. But before I wrap up, I want to spend just 1 minute or so listening to Ali. Ali is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Juno. It's a London-based startup that connects employers with well-being service providers in order to increase the well-being of employees all over the world. They do tremendous work, and not surprising, Ali got to this role after having burnt out himself, working in a variety of growth roles for very aggressive startups. Here is Ali's story.
I found this, I don't want to call it a calling, but I found this project, I found this thing that was going to have a positive impact on people's lives, and I was like, well, I have to do it now.
So what did you have to give up to become who you are now?
Peace of mind, a lot of peace of mind. Like, this is the thing, it's the worst job for anyone who values their peace of mind. Couldn't be worse. I'm financially fucked, like fucked financially. Every day is an existential nightmare. I'm loving every minute of it, though. You know, the fact of the matter is, I get an email on my phone from a customer saying this is changing my life. Like, it's worth its weight in gold. But I'm sacrificing a lot. I'm enjoying it, and I wouldn't swap it for anything. But you sacrifice your peace of mind.
For the second part of the session, we'd like to shift our focus from the startup founder to the startup employee. We want to bust the myth of these single founders and call it out for being harmful and misleading. No one works in vacuum. No startup is the brainchild of a single person or a duo. It's a team sport, and often it's those in the trenches that suffer the most. The startup employees can find themselves removed from some of the company's most important and critical decisions. They have the least time to brace for impact, the least experience in dealing with these types of situations, and heartbreaking as it is, also the very least amount of financial cushioning. So this part is dedicated to those in the trenches, our brothers and sisters fighting the startups war, and we'd like to kick it off with Ellen Donnelly. Ellen is a startup coach and a startup headhunter. She has a lot to say about what to expect when joining a startup.
Startups are a bit like a playground. Like, don't go in expecting to learn from the best and see the most professional outfit you've ever, dreamed of, because you won't. You'll actually see how most people are winging it and they're making it up as they go along. But join a startup that's growing, that has decent leadership and decent mentor type opportunities, as in people that will mentor you, you'll fly. Like, there's some people I've worked with who joined, let's say, Deliveroo at kind of 30, 40 people and stayed till they were 400-500 in London. And the things they were doing at like 24, 25 are just uncomparable elsewhere, but they hit gold, right? They were in the minority. The reality is that a lot of startups don't scale, or they run out of funding, and so there's a sort of darker side. So I guess my advice is to join a startup with your eyes wide open about the risk that it can bring, and I mean financial risk, because a lot of companies do run out of money and then you're on the job market again looking for a job, and that's part and parcel of the experience, and the winners exceed the risk that entails. So yeah, do it when you're figuring out who you are, what you're about, because you'll get to wear lots of hats. Do it if you've been completely micromanaged for a long time, because you'll really relish the opportunity to spread your wings and just give it a go and figure it out as you go along, make mistakes and not get kind of punished for it. I wouldn't do it if you've figured out what you're amazing at and money's important for you, and so is stability and being at, let's say you're saving for a wedding, or let's say, you're about to have your first child. Not that those life stages are the only life stages that this occurs, it's just so happens. I would, at that point in your life, be like, how can I join a company that really lets me own my value and build and establish myself as a professional in this field? Because the reality is that a lot of startups call it marketing or call it product or call it whatever, and you end up doing a watered down version of it because they haven't got the budget to do it properly, or you end up doing 5 different jobs and you get frustrated, or you do the menial work because that's all that they can give you and you don't actually build on your skill set, or you don't get the salary you deserve. So I'm not saying it's bad necessarily, but it's just, for some people it doesn't make sense to join at that stage when they could be getting 3 times more for their worth in a good, proper company, learning from professionals in their field.
Startups are a wild, wild ride. Your time in a startup will fundamentally change you. To make sure that this change is positive and long-lasting, we've gathered a few guidelines we'd like to share with you. Number 1, understand that there are 2 types of employees in a startup. The ones that add pressure to the system and the ones that remove it. With every action you take, you choose a side. Your action can either create more stress within the company or remove it. Optimize for the actions that remove the stress. Your real job is not what's written in your job description. It's also not what's waiting for you in your to-do list or what's waiting for you in your inbox. In a startup, you have one job and one job only, and that is to help the company win. You do that by aligning your efforts with the company's objectives. You do that by putting your talent at the service of your managers. You do that by striving for alignment with your manager's priorities. You want to make sure that what you're working on is what moves the needle for the company. And if you can't connect the dots between your work and the company's objectives, ask for clarity. Guideline number 3. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. When working for a startup, one of the biggest draws and biggest benefits is working with extremely talented, ambitious, driven, and experienced individuals. So it's better not to be the smartest. Where should you excel? You should be the one that paves a path forward. Offer alternatives to progression. Keep yourself accountable, circle back with your conclusions, and always move forward. The 4th and final guideline in this chapter is all about separating your personal story from your company's story. Regardless of what the end result is for that startup, your time there is what counts for you. What you've done there, your startup CV, is what you're taking forward with you. If the startup exited and you get a nice paycheck out of it, amazing. That's wonderful. But it doesn't eliminate your need to find different deployment. If the startup fails, however, does that mean you've failed as an individual, as a professional? Definitely not. This is why you want to keep track of your startup CV. This CV comprises of your projects, your launches, your contribution to the overall business metrics. You want to keep those things tracked and monitored and celebrated. After all, it's not about who you know. It's about who knows what you know. Look, we can go on for hours writing this list. We've written down 5 or 6 more bullets that we simply can't squeeze into today's session. So what we do want to do is send you off with a bit of employee empowerment presented by Amy Stein. Amy is an HR and people operations professional with 15 years of industry experience. She saw it all and she adopted an unorthodox approach.
You know, I've had colleagues who send me emails like the one you were discussing. I've received lots of them. And I have a really simple way of dealing with them. I delete them. And then a week later, when that person says to me, Amy, did you read my email? I say, no, I now automatically delete all your emails. I haven't read one in weeks. So I'm really happy if you want to talk to me about something, I'll sit down and talk it through with you. But yeah, no, I stopped reading your emails weeks ago. They'll be like, well, you're not allowed to do that. And I'm like, you're not, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm allowed to do it. And that's, self-protection, right? And I don't get anything but stress from those emails. I don't find them helpful. I don't find them useful. I don't think they're a good problem-solving tool, but yeah, really happy to sit down with you and talk through what the problems are. And then that changes the whole relationship because they realize actually that it's not a bat and ball relationship. They can't just pick you up and whack you across the office. I'm not your tennis ball. I'm an equal to you. We're an adult relationship and happy to talk it through, but I'm not happy to receive those emails. I just delete them. Solves the problem. And the problem with email is it sits in your email box. And when it's a nasty email, you can go back and reread it over and over again. So it doesn't just wind you up once. It winds you up 20 times. Even if you just see the subject line sitting in your email box and you just look at it and then emotionally you have a reaction to it.
Yeah, it's a trigger.
Yeah. So there's a really good way to deal with colleagues who send emails like that. And that's my method for doing it. Wow. I just put them on, I say to them at some point, if you can learn how to write a good email, I'll start reading them again. But otherwise, no, that avenue is not available.
We're nearly at the end of our time together, and we'd like to finish with what happens when the startup founders, which we've discussed, and the startup employees, which we've covered, coincide. What happens within a startup? How can we keep our startups on the railroad towards our goals when everything is working against us? To kick us off, we'd like to tell you the story of Alexandra Wixel. Alexandra joined a company formerly known as SCL Group. She joined as a project coordinator, and fast forward 6 or 9 months into her employment, the company changed its name. The company started trading as Cambridge Analytica, and that story is a story you've all heard of. Now, let's hear it from Alex.
I think it was really when Cambridge Analytica got the Trump contract that things changed, because up until that point we were still a small agency and we were completely unknown to the world. No one knew about us. So we were doing our thing, and the Trump contract, which I think no one in the company expected us to win, came about, and it really challenged a lot of people there, me included. I was very hesitant to continue working for the company because I didn't support the political ideology. But it started growing so fast after that, and everyone from every side of the political spectrum, commercial, wanted to understand what we were doing, and they wanted a piece of it. So the company just grew too fast for what it had the capacity to handle. Being in the position I was at the time, I was sort of tapped into a lot of different teams. So I had quite a good overview of the vibe and the environment of the company. So this 2 weeks running up to a meeting where basically the CEO called us in, Alexander said, listen, there's going to be a bit of a bump in media. We are going to have some negative press coming out, but don't worry about it. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're going to go through it like everything else. But when this video came out, there was something shifted within me. I felt let down. I felt like, someone had cheated on me in a relationship. That was the kind of feeling that I can describe. And I was really, really disappointed and very hurt. Seeing the very end of it and the chaos of the end of it was just, I knew that was going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity. So it was like one of those movies, like the doomsday kind of movies, the calm before the storm. They had called us all into a meeting that they kept postponing for 10 hours maybe, So it was like sitting around waiting, and we were all there together. And it's almost like, the end of a civilization, like people are dropping. And at that point, the offices had been raided. They had taken a lot of the computers and stuff for investigation.
You were there for when the offices were being raided?
Yeah, so it was one evening. So we came back one morning and everything was just turned upside down. And papers were everywhere and the laptops were taken and everything. So people could literally not do work.
So what was the meeting like?
It was short. It was emotional. We had the CEO calling in from New York, saying he was sort of reading out a statement that his lawyers had drafted.
Wow.
Saying, thank you so much for your service. Goodbye. Wish you all the best for the future. We can save the company, kind of thing. And some people started crying. Some people, expected it. But it was just this really weird feeling that I think only people who have seen the closure of a company and been there until the very last day can relate to.
The Cambridge Analytica story is quite a rare phenomenon. It's not applicable to 99.9% of the startups out there. To finish today's session, we'd like to cover 4 principles that we believe that if startups embed and implement, will make their journey much smoother and make the companies much more resilient to the adversity, uncertainty, and volatility that their journey has in store for them. Principle number 1 is cultural fit. Cultural fit can be used as an excuse to not hire people who are different from you, or as a way to manage people out of the organization. But it can also be a force for good. It can also be a way to create cohesion and alignment. Cultural fit is the underlying behaviors that happen in a company. The way the company responds, reacts, the way the company carries itself. And it's a reflection of the founders naturally, but it's also a reflection of everyone who joined the team and the behaviors they are willing to put up with and the behaviors that they are promoting. To discuss the sensitive topic of cultural fit, we sat down for a chat with Valentin Scholz. Valentin ran growth for Revolut, the fastest growing startup in the UK and one of the most successful fintechs in history. It had also become infamous for some of its growth practices. In the segment you're going to hear now, Valentin describes what it was like working for Revolut and what made the company so successful.
Personally, I've never met a founder like Nick. I mean, he was extremely dedicated to work, extremely focused, extremely hardworking, and he created like a culture around him to have people with a similar ambition and that basically just want to succeed at all costs, and people that just want to prove the world what they're capable of. So Nick just set very aggressive goals, which was usually 10 times the baseline, which requires you to think differently because you can't get to the goal with small incremental changes, or at least not in the given time frame. So you had to think outside of the box and basically had to think, okay, how can I make big step changes?
What are some of the misconceptions people had coming into Revolut?
I mean, I don't think there's like a one size fits all, right? I mean, culture often comes from the founders. I personally just feel like it's on one hand, it's a responsibility of a company to test people, to make sure that you hire for the right, the right culture. On the other hand, it's a responsibility also of an employee to do a proper research and understand how the company really is, how it's working there, and if that's something I want to spend my time with.
In a nutshell, know what you're getting yourself into. Not all startups are about beanbags and fun days and happy hours. Some of them have none of that. Some of them are very aggressive, very ambitious work environments. If you're interested in Revolut's story, there's plenty of material to read online, and we'd highly recommend you to do so. And do a sanity check in your own organization. Do we understand what a real cultural fit is for us? And now for principle number 2, disagree and commit. Disagree and commit is the ability to get behind decisions you either don't like or don't understand. It is a critical skill to possess in a startup, as so many decisions are taken with missing data. If you find yourself in the opposite end with a decision that's about to be made, if it happens time and time again, you'll simply find yourself isolated and eventually out of the organization. So learning to accept and executing with the same vigor, even if the decisions are not to your liking, is a critical skill. To discuss that, we sat down with Felix Becker. Felix is the VP Operations for Mural, a collaboration software, and he has quite the track record. Having worked for McKinsey, LinkedIn, Pipedrive, and today Mural, he knows a thing or two about adversity, about disagreeing and committing, and about handling feedback. Here is what Felix had to say.
I had projects where I didn't perform very well, and I'm happy to say that because nobody says it. And I feel there's this level of, I don't know if it is like ego or what else. I had projects where I didn't get along with the manager, I didn't get along with my team, or I didn't agree in the way we were tackling problems or recommending stuff to our clients. I kind of kept crashing with my manager, and at some point he's the manager, we do it, but therefore my review wasn't amazing, and that's okay. I learned from that and moved on. Overall, I think I did a good job, but also like for some periods of time over there, like my confidence was very, very low. And you get stressed and you get like, oh, I'm working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, weekends, I'm leaving my family aside. And then I get like this bad review and this constant feedback flow that gets to you. And if you're not, as you say, very like with a thick skin, you can take feedback in a way that can crush your confidence.
The third principle is called assume positive intent. It is the mindset, the underlying assumption you want to embed into every corner of your organization. Essentially, we're all here to make the company successful, but it's also so easy to forget. When you're in a disagreement or in a clash, it's very easy to assume that the other person is wrong, that they don't understand what they're doing, that they have an agenda that you simply don't know of. They do have an agenda, and they're trying to do good. It just sometimes comes out wrong. So your responsibility is to take a step back, assume positive intent, and re-engage. Our fourth principle, and our last, is kind of like the startup constitution. Think of a startup as its own state, its own country. It's an entity that has its own rules and laws and behaviors and traditions, and also its own currency. If you understand the startup currency, you will transact with greater ease. So the startup currency is consisted of 3 pillars. Number 1 is self-expression. People come to a startup in order to express themselves and be themselves. Anyone who wants to be another brick in the wall could have found himself working for a corporation in no time. The second pillar is ownership. We don't have time for micromanagement. We don't have a capacity for looking over people's shoulders. We exchange trust, and we reward trust with ownership, taking things end to end, asking when we don't know things, raising our hands if we're unsure, and taking the time and dedicating the efforts to learning. And the last pillar is the ability and permission to do things for the first time. Startups are based on their ability to innovate. And innovation necessarily means sailing through uncharted territories, breaking new ground, breaking the rules, as cliched as it sounds. So, in order to allow for people to do things for the first time, you also need to get used to living with failure. It may get uncomfortable, but if you remove the judgment from failure, you're staying with what other people would call experience. So, that's it. We're done. We're at the end of the session, and we'd like to recap. When choosing how to tackle today's session, there were so many ways we could go about it, and we chose focusing on the founder, the employees, and then the organism. The reason we chose to do that is because startups varies in countries, in shapes, in sizes, in industries, but the dynamic within a startup is often replicated and duplicated throughout the different organizations. So what did we have here? On the founder perspective, we discussed three things: motivational tyranny, the different perspectives and motivations of people who are joining your company; managerial overhead, the extra responsibilities that come with the title founder and CEO; and lastly, burn rate to burnout ratio, or in other words, self-care for founders. Remember that your number one priority is to look after yourself so you can look after everyone else. As an employee, we discussed the following. Number one, understand that there are two types of employees: those who add pressure into the system and those that remove it. Second thing is, your real job is not what's written in your job description. It is to make the company successful. Number three, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you have to be the one that offers a way forward. And number four, separate your startup's story from your own personal story. In the last part of the sessions, we discussed 4 behaviors that can make startups more successful, regardless of their technology, capital, or timing. Number 1, cultural fit. Understanding what your company is really like, what behaviors it rewards and punishes, and hire people who are suitable for it. Number 2, disagree and commit. The ability to get behind decisions you don't like or understand, with the knowledge that no one knows 100% what the right answer is. Number 3, assume positive intent. Everyone around you are here to make the company more successful. It's easy to forget, but try not to. And number 4, startup is its own country with its own rules and its own currency. Regardless of what startups you work for and what your culture is like, the currency is the same. Self-expression, ownership, and the permission to do things for the first time. There is so much more we could have covered. We didn't talk at all about founder dynamics, about fundraising, about overcoming adversity. It's an infinite topic. If you're interested in our work in the startup world, feel free to follow us. We have a pretty robust YouTube channel with videos of all the episodes and their highlights. You can listen to the show wherever you take your podcasts, and Eyal and I are always available on LinkedIn. We'll be hosting a Clubhouse room on March 24th, 12 p.m. PST. An excellent opportunity to meet the community, to share your stories and to hear others. We'd love to have you with us there. And remember, it doesn't matter how big the exit was or how disastrous was the failure. At the end of the day, what matters most is how well you walked through the fire.